20 years is a long time to hold your breath. For Nneka, every anniversary was not a celebration, but a finish line she was relieved to cross without being caught. On the night of their 20th wedding anniversary, the air in their Lagos mansion was thick with the scent of expensive lilies and imported perfume. Nneka stood before her vanity, draped in a lace wrapper that cost more than some people's cars. Her husband, Chidi, was the man every woman dreamed of, kind, wealthy, and utterly devoted. As he clipped a diamond necklace around her neck, he whispered, 20 years of purity, Nneka. My virtuous woman. Nneka's heart did a slow, painful roll in her chest. She forced a smile, but her reflection looked like a stranger's. She was thinking of a rainy Tuesday 2 decades ago, just 3 weeks before their wedding. Chidi had been away on a business trip to Port Harcourt. Nneka, young and feeling neglected, had gone to a club and run into Jude, Chidi's charming, rebellious younger brother. One drink led to another, and in a moment of blood judgment and spite, she had followed Jude into a darkened room. They didn't speak, the shame was too heavy for words. She had crept out before dawn, buried the memory, and married Chidi a month later. When she gave birth to a son 9 months later, she lived in terror. But as the boy, Toby, grew, he looked so much like the family, the same jawline, the same gait, that she convinced herself he was Chidi's. She sent Toby to boarding school in London early, subconsciously trying to keep the evidence away from her husband's daily gaze. The party was in full swing when the costly mistake finally took its seat at the table. Barrister Okoro, the family lawyer and a man who loved drama as much as he loved the law, stood up to give a toast. But instead of a glass, he held a manila folder. The room went silent. Chidi, the barrister began, his voice gravelly. You asked me to verify the beneficiaries for the new family estate. In doing so, a young man approached me with a claim. I took a DNA sample from your office desk and compared it. Nneka felt the floor tilt. Her glass of champagne slipped from her fingers, shattering against the marble. 10% of her wanted to run, but 90% was paralyzed by the sight of the young man walking through the door. It was Toby. But he wasn't the smiling son she knew. He looked cold. Mom, Toby said, the word sounding like a slap. Or should I say, Auntie. Uncle Jude died last month. But before he went, he left me a letter. He told me he wasn't my uncle. He told me about that night 20 years ago. Nneka collapsed into a chair, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Chidi, I can explain. It was only once. I thought you were away. I was weak, and Jude looked so much like you in the dark. The room gasped. The virtuous woman was a cheat. The scandal was ripe and heavy. But then, the real explosion happened. Chidi didn't look shocked. He didn't scream. He simply set his glass down with a terrifyingly calm click. I know, Nneka, Chidi said. The silence that followed was deafening. I came back early that night 20 years ago to surprise you, Chidi continued, his voice steady. I saw you go into that room with my brother. I followed you. I waited in the hallway, heartbroken, wanting to kill him. But then I saw Jude come out to get a drink, leaving you in the dark. I walked into that room instead. You thought you were with him, but you were with me. I let you believe it was Jude for 20 years just to see if you would ever have the integrity to tell me the truth. Nneka stared at him, her words spinning. Toby was Chidi's biological son, but the secret she had protected had been a trap Chidi set 2 decades ago. He had watched her lie every single day for 7,300 days. You traded your soul for a secret that wasn't even real, Chidi said, standing up. I can forgive a mistake, Nneka. But I cannot spend another 20 years with a woman who prefers a lie to the light. As Chidi walked out of the hall followed by his son, Nneka sat amidst the balloons and the finery, finally realizing that the night of regret hadn't ended 20 years ago, it was only just beginning.